What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Jon Moxley enters alcohol rehab, Jim Ross updates fans on his cancer diagnosis, Vince McMahon hated Bray Wyatt, Edge didn't want to go to Saudi Arabia, rumors on Brock Lesnar's next opponent, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's do the intro and get straight into our first story. Now, our first story looks at Jon Moxley entering alcohol rehab. Now, topping today's news is a statement from AEW President Tony Khan that Jon Moxley has entered an inpatient alcohol treatment program. Jon Moxley has allowed me to share you with that he is entering an inpatient alcohol treatment program. Jon is a beloved member of the AEW family. We all stand with him and Renee and all of his family and friends as he shifts his focus to recovery. Jon is making a very brave choice to get help, and we're embracing his choice and supporting him however we can. Now, Moxley just released his memoir Mox and continues to remain a top star in AEW. In fact, Moxley has been competing in AEW's World Title Eliminator Tournament and was scheduled to face Orange Cassidy in the semi-finals on the 3rd November edition of Dynamite. However, he has been pulled. It's refreshing to see Moxley getting the help he needs and AEW encouraging him to focus on his well-being rather than his role in a wrestling promotion. 20 years ago, a wrestler like Moxley might have been pressured to continue working despite the risk to himself and others. We're sending our thoughts and prayers to Moxley for a fast and full recovery. Next up, Jim Ross updates the fans on his cancer diagnosis. AEW announcer Jim Ross recently revealed that he's been diagnosed with skin cancer, and now the WWE Hall of Famer is providing fans with an update on his condition. Ross discussed his pending treatment during a recent episode of his podcast, Grillin' JR. I'm pretty good. I have this little cancer issue I'm trying to deal with. I'm going to start doing radiation soon. I have to do 22 radiation treatments. Somehow I have to figure out how to do it on consecutive days. They would like to do it every day for I think 3 weeks or whatever it is. Maybe longer than that. I haven't kept track. It's inevitable. It's coming. I have to deal with it. Ross acknowledged that he only has himself to blame as he ignored a spot on his ankle that continued to grow and grow. Nevertheless, he's dealing with it. So it's going to be fun to get healthy. I feel healthy now, but it's just another turn on the road. I'm going to deal with it like a man. It's all good. JR continued noting his skin cancer isn't as severe as it might have been, and that according to his doctors, he won't miss any work. He also thanked the fans for their support, saying, "I really appreciate all the fans who have reached out on social media and forth, giving me their encouragement, prayers and so forth." Now, we think Ross's bravery is inspiring and wish him a fast and full recovery as he deals with this incredible challenge. Next up, Vince McMahon hated Bray Wyatt? There's interesting rumors swirling around about Vince McMahon's feelings towards Bray Wyatt during the latter run of The Fiend's WWE run. According to a recent report from Fightful Select, the WWE Kingpin was upset because he felt Wyatt was being too outspoken about his character and his character's direction. According to Fightful, Wyatt was concerned when the WWE had adopted his extra crispy version of The Fiend following Randy Orton setting him on fire at 2020's TLC pay-per-view. Rumour has it that Wyatt felt his new outfit was too heavy and it looked bad, which led to his return as the original Fiend character at WrestleMania 37. Things only worsened as the WWE changed the booking for The Fiend vs Orton at this year's Showcase of the Immortals from The Fiend winning to then Orton winning. Fightful continued reporting that never a true creative endgame for that story. Whether this was the reason for Wyatt's loss, Alexa Bliss's sudden betrayal of Wyatt, or Wyatt losing remains unknown. You've likely heard the rumours that Wyndham Rotunda, aka Bray Wyatt, plans on addressing his time in the WWE in the near future. It'll be interesting to hear what he has to say. Next up, Eric Bischoff talks AEW's failures of using CM Punk. CM Punk's return to wrestling at All Elite's 20th August 2021 First Dance episode of Rampage has made for many happy fans, but former WCW executive Eric Bischoff doesn't think AEW has used him properly. In fact, Bischoff believes Punk has underdelivered so far during his time in the company. Speaking on the 83 Weeks podcast, Bischoff said, "When Punk came out and said that the AEW signing of him and Daniel Bryan was more significant than Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, well, I kind of disagree with that. Yes, CM Punk was at a high level 7 freaking years ago when he was at his peak performance role in WWE. That was 7 years ago. What I found interesting is after Punk showed up with all his significance, far more significance than Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, only to see AEW lose viewership over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks. Easy chose to skip who was more significant, instead pointing out to what he sees as AEW's failure to build things up on Punk's return, or anyone else's for that matter. You had all this anticipation. Punk's coming, Bryan Danielson is coming, this guy's coming, this girl's coming, everybody's coming, this is going to be great. They came, they saw, nothing really happened. You got a big pop. Yay, the crowd reacted. That was awesome. Sold a bunch of t-shirts, that was awesome. Now what? There's no now what. It's not episodic. Come on, that's the example. How many people tuned into Rampage when Punk showed up? 1.3 million? 1.3 showed up, and how many showed up 3 weeks later? 500,000. Why is that? Because you didn't give him a reason to come back, that's why. Now, Bischoff did raise a good point about AEW's failure to sustain the high ratings delivered by Punk in his debut, but ultimately, viewership has gone down. What do you guys think? Have AEW not used Punk correctly? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Edge didn't want to go to Saudi Arabia. Now, the WWE Saudi Arabia Super Shows remain a controversial subject for many people given Saudi Arabia's questionable human rights policies and the perception by some that the Saudi government brings in entertainment events in order to legitimize its government's practices. This has led to wrestlers skipping the show, and while WWE Hall of Famer Edge was reluctant to go, he ultimately chose to participate, wrestling Seth Rollins in a highly acclaimed Hell in a Cell match. Wrestling's Rated R superstar recently appeared on the Kids on the Escalator podcast, explaining his reasons for going, including assigning female referee Jessica Carr to officiate the bout. I wasn't too keen on going, I'll be perfectly honest, but then as we talked and they said we need it there, I said, okay, well let's get Jess to ref there, and not knowing how that, if we'd be able to, but I just love the idea of a woman being in control of two men in that country, and if it flew over a lot of heads, whatever, but for me, I could come back to my girls and tell them one day I went over there, but I think we did something pretty cool. And again, she was just right there for everything. Just not in any way overwhelmed by the moment, just stood up to the challenge. It was really cool to see. Edge explained that he felt confident about Carr's officiating after she worked the Edge vs Seth match at SummerSlam. Yeah, you know, I had SummerSlam coming up with Seth Rollins and Charles Robinson was going to be there, and I'm kind of at that stage of my career where I'm a little picky when it comes to who refs. Charles wasn't going to be at SummerSlam, and I talked to him and I said, what do you think about Jess? Should we give her a shot? Because I've watched her and she's good. Let's give her a high profile match and see how she does. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, I think it'd be a great idea. And it seems like Edge wanted to help out the WWE by working the show, but by doing so on his own terms and helping to introduce a female authority figure to the fans of Saudi Arabia. And finally, rumors on Brock Lesnar's Royal Rumble opponent. Now what's next for Brock Lesnar? While the Beast was recently suspended indefinitely for nearly murderizing WWE authority figure Adam Pearce, fans know it's only a matter of time before Big Brock returns to cash in some more of Mr. McMahon's millions. Now there's speculation that Lesnar could battle Drew McIntyre at the 2022 Royal Rumble. Dave Meltzer discussed the situation at his Wrestling Observer site, saying, there was significance in Drew McIntyre using the Chimera, Brock Lesnar's submission move on Mustafa Ali on SmackDown. The significance, of course, is that McIntyre may be looking for a match with Lesnar, the man he defeated at WrestleMania 36 to become WWE Champion for the first time. McIntyre never had the chance to wrestle Lesnar in front of fans due to the pandemic, and rumor has it he'd love to battle Lesnar in front of a capacity crowd. Wrestling News' Paul Davis also speculated about Lesnar and McIntyre, saying, if that rematch is going to happen, then it would be more likely for a non-WrestleMania pay-per-view like the Royal Rumble, since it looks like the Lesnar vs Reigns rematch will be happening at Mania. Davis noted that Cesaro also hinted at wanting a match with Lesnar, and according to Davis, Cesaro vs Lesnar could be another match for Lesnar on the road back to his title match with Reigns at Mania. But there you have it, folks, the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.